I'd like to call the public service meeting to order, committee meeting to order. Everyone is here except for Councilman Kamer. May I have an approval on the minutes from our past meeting? Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, the minutes pass. We have one thing on the old agenda that we would like to have. Wait, I think before I do that, on the old agenda, we have an ordinance amending and supplementing the Title V Public Works, Chapter 52, Garbage and Refuge. Refuse. Were you here to speak on that, Jim? Okay, alrighty. I was supposed to meet today, but our schedules conflicted on this, and so I would like a little bit more time before we take a vote on that.
And actually, they're bringing something back to you, to the committee.
They're bringing what to the committee?
They're bringing something back to the committee for you guys to.
Thank you. Okay, that's what I was hoping was going to be in our little meeting today. So an amendment, some sort of amendment. So they're working on an amendment for this particular piece that we have on time.
You're not doing it tonight.
So we will continue time on that. Okay, motion for time. Second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, that will get time. And we have on our new agenda a number of different ordinances to come before us. The first one is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the replacement of the failed air conditioning unit at the Elliott Community Center and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. This air conditioning unit for Elliott Community Center is 25 years old. We've put numerous repairs into it, and this is a replacement of that. So we will bid this out, yes.
And it's beyond repair.
Yes.
Beyond, I think 25 years for a unit is pretty good. And we have a lot of seniors that we have that go to that outlet center. So in my opinion, this is money well spent. Anyone on the committee have a comment? Nope. Okay. Anyone on council? Seeing none, what is the pleasure?
Consent's fine.
Consent? Okay. I had a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this will be placed on the consent agenda. Our second item before us is an ordinance authorizing Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the planting of trees in connection with the restoration phase of the CSO program known as CSO tree planting. That was creative. And declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. This basically is for the RAC 12, RAC 14, in the outfall sewer, all the trees that were removed. This is to purchase a portion of them for our 2-to-1 tree planting that we do through our CSO program.
Any comments from the committee? Councilwoman Tara Mosley Samples.
Just a quick question for you, Chris. I'm trying to think, RAC 12 and 14, where are we at?
RAC 12 is Evans Avenue and 14 is like Old Forge Field. You could see off of Route 8 down there. Yes.
Right, okay, thank you.
Anyone from council? Seeing and hearing none, what is your pleasure?
Consent is fine.
Okay. And a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this item will go on the consent agenda. Our third item before us is an ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the purchase and delivery of trees for the tree giveaways associated with the CSO program and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Yes, this is from our Blue Heron event, and another successful year for that event. We gave away numerous trees, I think about 500 of them. So we would like this passed so we can purchase those trees. John Malish, our arborist, has picked 2 vendors that that have been very successful in picking these trees for our residents.
Wonderful. What a nice giveaway. Any questions or comments from the committee? Well, okay. None from the committee and from council.
This is a great program. I do have a question about, are we buying trees that are dispersing trees that are native to this area? Any thought or criteria about that related to that?
I believe we are. I'd have to check with John, but the beauty of this program is that these are planted on private property, not on street lawns. So the residents plant them in their own yards, which we do not go on private property. So they are native to this area.
When you bought them, they're native?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And I do believe you have to pick them up if you get one of these.
We're going to have them delivered to our wastewater plant down at WRF, and the residents are instructed they'll be sent a letter, and they'll pick them up there, yes.
And I think something that people who haven't gotten a tree giveaway, because possibly you live in a condo or whatever the case may be, these are not saplings. These are nice, they're 5-7 feet tall, these trees, so they wouldn't fit in my Prius. But I think it's so nice because you hear about, and we know when Earth Day comes, you see a lot of these little saplings, which is wonderful. But these are mature trees that we are offering to our residents, which is awfully nice. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam President. So for this portion of it, I see the overall budget amount is $450,000. So just for the purchase of trees, it's $40,000.
Just for this piece, yes.
So we don't suggest how far from the sidewalk the tree is planted. We don't do any of that.
Typically, no. I mean, if they ask, John will assist them in recommending where it should go, shade or no shade, that type of thing.
Yes.
How close to the house, that type of thing.
So I guess my question is around, we get calls from residents all the time. The sidewalk is bulging as a result of the root system. Are we not given directions about that?
Well, those are tree lawn trees, and John works very closely with the replacement of those tree lawn trees. So he will specify what tree needs to go in the tree lawn, so try to alleviate that from happening in the future.
Okay.
He works with the gas company, too, on the replacement of trees.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing I'd like to add is, I'm not sure, because I was in a cast this year, and you still have the Blue Heron Homecoming, but at the booth where these trees, they normally have a representation of what the trees look like that they're looking at. And when you inquire about, because you normally get to choose your first choice or your second choice or whatever, that's the time when those people that work that booth kind of help guide you. So, of course, if you don't ask the question, they may not know, but the representation down there is great as to if you ask the question, you're going to get your answer. Okay. All righty, what is your pleasure on this one?
Could we ask for suspension of the rules?
I would think, since we've already promised these, that might be a good idea.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this passes as a suspension of rules.
You can stay here.
Okay, number 4, ordinance ratifying the actions of the Director of Public Service of entering into a contract with NBW, Inc. for the emergency replacement of the boiler at Good Park Golf Course and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. This boiler was original to the building 1955. It was 1 million BTUs. So we looked at replacing it. It was 55% efficient. So we looked at a 95% efficient versus an 82% efficient. But the payback between the two, first it was about a $40,000 increase to go with the higher efficiency, and it was about a 25-year payback. So this is the boiler we chose. It had to be built. It took a while to get replaced, but it's all done now.
Is this the 85 or the 92?
This is the 82% efficient.
82,
Yes.
okay. All righty. Any comments from the committee? Any comments from council? Hearing and seeing none, what is the pleasure?
Consent's fine.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this item will be placed on the consent agenda. Okay, number 5, this is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to apply for and enter into grant agreement if awarded with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the reconstruction of taxiway H1, rehabilitation of aprons A and B, rehabilitation of runway 7-25, electrical, removal of obstruction at the end of runway 7, and pavement markings of runway 7 through 25, and declaring an emergency. It's all yours.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the committee, what this does is this is a grant that we're applying for. It's 95.5 money. So if you look at the budget, it'd be $10,000 out of TIF. So this is something we have to apply for. We don't know if we'll get any of it or all of it, but we are prioritized by doing the apron and the taxiway H1 first. So this basically is work right around the FBO, both sides of it, on the east and west sides, and then the taxiway out to the main runway.
Perfect. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from council? Councilman Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. On the, and this probably came up during budget hearings, on the airport, do we know, like, do we break even on that? Do we make any revenue on that?
I can get you that budget. I'll get back to you.
Okay,
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else from council? Okay.
Because of the timing of this grant, can we ask for suspension of the rules?
Sure. I have a motion for suspension of the rules and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this will go as suspension of rules. Number 6, ordinance authorizing Director of Public Service to enter into a contract without the formality of advertising for bids with the K Company for emergency replacement of the chilled water coils and air handler for the Stubbs Justice Center and declaring an emergency.
When we started up the air conditioning this year at Stubbs, or attempted to, there was numerous leaks in the coil. There again, it's a 1966 coil. There's piping that had to be replaced. Unfortunately, to get this in, we had to have a crane set it on the roof. We had to remove a piece of ductwork and then get it through a hatch in the roof because of the new chiller ductwork that's on the roof. Remove insulation, remove ductwork inside, and get the coil in. And then everything has to be reconstructed. So this is labor, the reinstallation of all the insulation around the piping and the coil.
I believe there's also something about rails too. Is that true? This particular piece? Rails.
Rails, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we
So
had to
that's
have
another-
safety rails
yeah.
around. We had to purchase those too.
Okay.
For the perimeter of where the crane and the men were working, and women.
For safety. And
Yes.
okay. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any from members of council? Hearing and seeing none?
Consent's fine.
Consent? Okay. May I have a motion? I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this item will go on the consent agenda. Okay. We have 6A is a resolution declaring it necessary to improve various off-street parking facilities in the Kenmore Business District and the Canton Road Business District by sealing, resurfacing, and repairing, painting parking space stripes, sweeping, removing snow, cleaning sewer openings, providing lawn, turf, shrub, and tree maintenance, litter, and other general cleanup, and otherwise improving and maintaining the same, and all when and where necessary, and declaring an emergency.
This is our yearly legislation for the Kenmore and Canton Road business districts. This is a renewal, no increase to the businesses. It's the same assessment as we've had in the past.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee? Any questions from council? Hearing and seeing none, what is your pleasure?
Consent's fine.
Consent? Okay. I had a motion and a second for consent. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this item will be placed on the consent agenda. 6B is a resolution declaring it necessary to improve certain streets in the city between certain termini by providing street cleaning services and street lining and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. This is our yearly street lighting, street cleaning assessment. There again, there's no increase this year. It's the same rate as it has been.
So there's no increase. And has this been advertised or yet, or will it be advertised? This is when the phones ring off the hook.
I don't believe we advertise this.
We don't
It's not like
advertise this.
resurfacing where we have to advertise now.
Okay. Pardon me?
I believe that there's a dollar threshold for advertising at an assessment rate. If it's above that dollar threshold, they would be notified.
Okay, and since there's been no change,
I think it's a total dollar amount of an assessment for that property owner. If it's above a certain threshold, they need to notify them or it needs to go in the paper or something along those lines.
okay, I see. Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from council?
Consent's
I have one question here. Go ahead. Consent, but you wanted to know the time? Oh, consent? Okay. I have a motion then, Councilman Fusco? Okay, a second? Okay. All in favor of the motion and the consent for consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this will be placed on the consent agenda. Is there anything else to come before this committee? Hearing and seeing none, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.